Hey, suitable helpers, Coach Danny Pettiford here, and I am so excited because I'm about to share with you a clip from my live Wife Labs class. And we were talking about the difference between oneness and sameness. It's in Psalms 139, verse 14, and it says, I worship you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. This I know well. That means that you were painstakingly crafted with intention and love. There's not one thing that God instilled on the inside of you that He didn't fully plan to use to be a blessing to your union, to your legacy, and to the world. So that means that when we become one, if we become the same, well, one of us is obsolete. So listen, I don't know, this thing might turn some stuff upside down, but what I do know is that some folks are going to be set free and some folks are going to be blessed. So if you hear something that blesses you, or you know somebody that needs to hear this, do me a favor, make me a promise, like it and share, okay? I hope you're blessed by something that you hear. I'll see you in a bit. All right. So let me give you the foundational scripture, and it is Genesis 2:24. Okay, write it down, Genesis 2:24. And it says that for this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined or cleave to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. You may have heard that many, many times in church. And I think oftentimes when women step into marriage and we hear oneness, we tend to put everything that was on the back burner and join in whatever's going on with our husbands, leaving a lot of things to the side. And that really wasn't what the scripture was talking about. So I want to bring clarity to the statement of one flesh, that it doesn't mean one person. And I want to take a few minutes to break it down in the scripture where it's speaking of leaving, joining, or cleaving, and therefore becoming one flesh. Okay, so I'm going to talk about leaving, joining, or cleaving, and then this idea of becoming one flesh. What did that mean? What was the scriptures talking about? So leaving. Leaving was stepping into independence as a couple. When God calls a man to leave his father and mother, this represents a significant shift. Leaving doesn't mean abandoning or neglecting his family, but it signifies a change primarily in the allegiance and responsibility, right? Because of course, before you get married, you are cleaved to your mother, to your father, to your siblings, and your responsibilities lie there, right? Especially when we're thinking about traditionally, of course, the oldest son possibly was the one that made sure certain affairs were taken care of. As the parents were getting older, he was relied upon. Same thing with the daughters. I know for my family, I was relied on heavily because I was the only girl, right? And so there's an allegiance that you have and responsibility that you have to your family until you get married, where that changes. In marriage, a person is called to establish a new independent unit with their spouse. This becomes big conversation in so many relationships, because for many, this is difficult. It's hard to break away and actually form that allegiance with your spouse because you feel compelled, you feel obligated to your family. But the Lord is saying here that we're supposed to leave and cleave and establish independence with our spouse, where they're fully committed to nurturing and protecting the new relationship. So that's leaving, right? It's about prioritizing, investing in the marriage above all other relationships. That marriage becomes no one. It's deliberately stepping into this new role where couples rely on each other and form a foundation that's independent of the influence of their families. That's leaving. What leaving isn't is rejecting or completely separating from the family, right? So I don't want to get that wrong. I don't want us to think that because I'm forming a united front, my own unity in my marriage, I'm now shutting the rest of the family. I can't deal with y'all no more, cutting people off. When those kinds of things happen, that represents there's some issues there, right? So it's not about rejecting your family or totally separating from them. It's about having healthy boundaries, about establishing your own values and creating a space where what you create is all your own marital bond. This is where you get into creating your own rituals and establishing who you are as a couple. That's leaving, right? But then it's talking about cleaving. Cleaving takes on a different meaning. It's about creating this unbreakable bond of loyalty. And the word cleave in Hebrew conveys the idea of sticking, bonding, being glued to or stuck to in one way or another. It makes me think about this teaching that I heard years ago where, the guy was preaching from the stage and he was giving an example. He had basically created these two popsicle stick people and he had glued them together. And he was expressing how this cleaving and this bonding is meant to be unbreakable, right? It's not some superficial connection. It's a deep connection. It's designed to be a lifelong commitment, right? It means holding fast to each other. And this means through all things, through the good times, through the bad times, through all the things, and creating security and trust in each other. But what he did was he broke those two popsicle people apart. He broke it apart. And he was establishing how when something is cleaved to each other, like super glued together, when you tear it apart, both pieces break. There's no such thing as a clean break with no damage, because the cleaving is meant to be unbreakable. It is designed for long term. Okay. It is denoting loyalty, devotion, commitment, and it's an intentional choice that we make. Okay. What it isn't is the loss of your individuality. It's not about one spouse absorbing the other's identity or forcing them to conform to some other way of being. It's about supporting each other's growth and standing stronger together and bringing to the table each of your full individual giftings into the relationship. Oh, but then the scripture goes on and it starts to talk about this idea of the one flesh. Okay. And this is the culmination of leaving and cleaving and becoming a united force. This is where we see God's divine design for marriage, where both partners work together as a team with shared goals, values, and a common purpose. That's the one flesh. It's a decision to work together as a team while valuing your unique strengths and the qualities. It means moving in the same direction, committing to moving forward together as one, while still respecting each other's individual personalities, talents, and the callings. That's what it is. One flesh doesn't mean I now become one person. How crazy would that be? That's not even a possibility. And what good would one person be? If there's two of us and we merge into one, we're less protected. It's not about trying to erase or suppress differences. Okay. It's about blending. It's about finding all of the secret sauces. This is something Asani and I used to say all the time. Like, we got a secret sauce. We got a secret sauce. This is why there's no replication of a bonded, cleaved couple. There's no replication. You can't find another Asani and Danielle nowhere. And you can't find another you and your spouse nowhere. You're very unique. You're designed to be specific, and your gifts are designed to be different. What would be the point of you being the same? So in the chat, I want everybody to say there's a difference between sameness and oneness. Sameness and oneness is not a thing. We're to be one, but not the same. You mean to tell me that I'm able to bring all my crazy to the stage? Yes. Everything that you're bringing to the table, as long as it is productive, as long as it is good, as long as it is edifying, it is welcome in this marriage. And actually, it is needed. One of the most insightful compliments I've ever gained, I see the chat, yes, from, I don't know if this was a live we were doing, Hassani and I, but anyway, I don't know if we were speaking from the stage and this was the feedback. I don't remember, but I just remember this amazing compliment that really, I think, perfectly identified Hassani and I and how we show up. And so the way that they explained it, it was a female. And she was saying that you and Hassani Hassani is like a black and white coloring sheet, right? So, like the kind that you get in kindergarten, it's like all the lines and maybe it's a big picture. It's like a whole portrait or something. It could be Mickey Mouse standing in front of, the castle at Disney World and all the lines. And then she was just like, and Danielle, you bring all the color. And I was just like, wow. I thought about that because neither would work in isolation. I mean, unless you're just a master artist, right? I mean, we've all seen people sling paint at a wall and somehow it just turns out amazing. But in reality, without the structure and without the lines, all it is a bunch of colors all over the place with no rhyme or reason. What is this photo? Haven't you seen that? Haven't you received that from your kindergartner at one point or another where they just went at it with a bunch of crayons and you're like, oh, it's nice. What is it? What do you think it is, Mom? You have no idea what it is. Is it French fries? No, Mom, it's like, it's a Happy Meal, We have no idea because there's no structure. But when there's a structure and there's an outline and then somebody colors it in, especially colors by number. If you've ever done color by number, that thing turns out, I had one. I had a beautiful color by number painting that one of my clients sent. I wish I had it in here because it is actually marvelous. It's so detailed. I'll post it in the community so you can see it. But when there's structure, all of a sudden, beautiful art comes out of it. It makes me think of salt and pepper. We all have salt and pepper, right? This is like the most common spice set. You can find this in every single kitchen across America and probably across the world. You'll find salt and pepper. Yet despite being an iconic pair, I mean, look at this, look how much salt is left. I just grabbed it. But despite being iconic, they are so different. They're as different as they can be. All right, guys, I'm out of time. I'll see you next time. I just have to say goodbye. They are as different as they can be. If you think about salt is a mineral. It's typically harvested from the sea and in salt mines, depending on what kind of salt it is. It's stable. It's simple. It has been used for centuries to preserve and enhance food. It makes other ingredients taste better. It brings out sweetness. It balances bitterness. It has a way of lifting flavors, of bringing out the flavors. That's what it does. When you go to any restaurant and the flavor is bland, the first thing you do is like, where's the salt? Ma'am, is there salt? Matter of fact, when I was in Mexico last week, that's one thing that I kept having to ask for is salt. I'm like, can I get some salt? Can I get some salt? Salt. Because, Mexican food is amazing. I love Mexican food, but it's not Tex-Mex. So a lot of times here in the U.S., we've been eating Tex-Mex with all this spice. When we think it's Mexican food, it's not. Actually, Mexican food can be less flavorful or less spicy than Tex-Mex. So I was like, my salt. I needed my salt. I couldn't go for anything else. I just needed to lift the flavor of the chicken. I needed to lift the flavor of the adobo. I needed to lift the flavor of the chili with my salt. But pepper, on the other hand, pepper is a spice that comes from dried berries of the pepper plant. It adds depth, complexity. It's aromatic. I mean, if you smell it too hard, you're going to start sneezing, right? It's spicy. It gets in your nose, and you ever had a sneeze? Sneeze makes you, pepper makes you react. It adds a bit of kick to the dish. It doesn't enhance the flavor or the existing flavor the way salt does, though. But instead, it brings something entirely new. That's what pepper does. It brings something entirely new. It brings a warmth. It brings a subtle heat that makes the dish come alive. Salt and pepper. But they are always served up as one. Now my nose is itching. See what I'm saying? So in marriage, each spouse brings a unique role that complements. That is the plan. That is the design. You can't replace me. I'm salt. Just like salt and pepper, you and your spouse can come from completely different backgrounds entirely. And this will affect how you show up. You have unique characteristics, just like the salt and pepper. One may bring stability, like the salt, while the other one adds excitement and spice, like the pepper. These differences are not meant to be obstacles. And they're absolutely not meant to be suppressed. They are essential ingredients for a flavorful, balanced marriage. This right here, just this analogy alone, gave me wings. Hey sis, did I tell you? Mind-blowing, right? We are not meant to be the same. Now, over in our Suitable Helper community, we talk about all kinds of conversations just like this to help you unlock your highest potential so that you can rediscover your purpose, your passion in marriage, in life, and in business. So if this interested you, you don't want to miss all of the other conversations that we're talking about. So to learn more, just go ahead and click the link in the description. I hope to see you over there.